Good day, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Plain Talk. I am joined in studio today by Professor Emeritus Patrick Watson.
My pleasure to be here.
The reason for getting him here on such short notice is that the professor is an economist. And somebody needs to unravel and untangle the Gordian knot facing this country. The double threat that is about to hit Trinidad and Tobago, already reeling from what feels like a decade of economic mismanagement. We've not been growing forward, have we?
No. Growth has been negative largely over the last 10 years or so. And the budget deficit has been increasing. The national debt has been increasing. It's not a good situation. And there is a lot of retrenchment taking place. Some of it we don't hear about. Some of it comes about. You hear it, as you may have heard in the case of Lever and other places. And the fact that the figures are still looking good. I mean, I'm talking about employment because there's a lot of what I could call fictional employment in the form of CPEP and ERP. It's not that it's not necessary, but a lot of it depends on the government's ability to generate revenue, particularly from the oil sector. And that now is under very, very, very serious
Well, that begs a big question. I mean, if you are operating, if you are massaging the employment numbers through make-work schemes, something pays for that.
Well, I don't want to use short terms, but
but that's what your European CPEP is. That's a make-work scheme.
It to a large extent it is.
What else could it be considered?
It is. You see, when you look at the let's say the articles of formation, they don't say that at all. CPEP was supposed to be a place where you go and learn some kind of trade, some kind of profession, and then you go out. But it has morphed into something.
Has that materialized?
No, not at all.
The grand plan?
Not at all.
So it's reduced to another version of URP?
Yeah, so that's what it is. There are some technical differences, like there are outside contractors doing it and not directly.
Well, the only thing that I see for myself that I think is different to URP is that there is another level of payment.
Yes.
That we pay contractors who own the CPEP gang and they pay the URP workers.
That's one way of looking at it, yes. I am not I am not disagreeing with you.
Well, I mean, we're settling for make-work schemes because the country is mismanaged badly. Trinidad and Tobago's population, 1.4 million people. In a country this, we're supposed to be wealthy, but we're not.
Yes.
We're blessed. For want of a better word, we're very fortunate as a country. All of our profiles, if you actioned them, if you action this country's tourism profile, if you actioned our marine profile, Trinidad and Tobago is blessed beyond a lot of our competitors.
Our principal resource is what is in the ground there, and that's the oil and the gas. That's what we have, and that's what we have had for many, many years. What has happened, or what I should say has not happened, is we have not prepared for the day when this will not be serving our purposes. And my own feeling is that even if this is serving our purpose, we should always have something else ready. We should diversify the economy.
But
all governments to date have ignored.
But the experience of the 80s,
yes.
that recession, that global energy recession,
Yes.
the one takeaway from that was diversify your economy.
I was hearing diversification when I was in my mother's womb. I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying that. Everybody who has any sense would recognize
that you can't build a house on one plan.
Yes.
But this Prime Minister told his followers that it is impossible to diversify this economy. He used those words.
If you say so,
applause.
I cannot agree with that.
But it's impossible for him to say that because Singapore, and I want to use Singapore, I love to use Singapore as the contrast all the time. Singapore is half the size of Trinidad and Tobago, has a population of 5 million people. They don't have oil and gas. Their GDP is 332 billion
More
US
than
a year.
that, when Singapore started off in the 1960s, at around the same time we became independent, they were behind us.
Yeah.
And they were behind us, and
They
were clearly behind
nation.
Jamaica. And Jamaica, which was the leading country in the Caribbean, in the English-speaking Caribbean at that point in time. and now they have gone streaks ahead of all of
You're aware
of
that
us.
Singapore's economy just surpassed the United States of America as the most competitive economy in the world?
I'm not aware of that, but it would not surprise me if one day that happens.
But that as of 2019,
Yes.
they are the most competitive economy in the world. I guess as per capita per size. But the if we are a speck in the sea and Singapore is half the size of us,
Yes. So
and they don't have oil and gas and they don't have a Tobago,
it is clearly, and I think that's the point you're trying to raise, it's an issue of leadership. I must say, and I have to give some compliments in that regard to Arthur Lewis, the person after whom the institution I served for so many years, that institution was named, because many of their policies that were implemented were a direct consequence of what Arthur Lewis thought. And I remember when we were celebrating at the Institute 100 years of the birthday of Arthur Lewis, they wanted to come and take part and to say what their things were. And I was interviewed on St. Lucia television. St. Lucia is the birthplace of Arthur Lewis. And I was joined by a technocrat from Singapore who sang the praises of Arthur Lewis. Now, we didn't do that. Arthur Lewis has been falsely accused of being the architect of what we started to call industrialization by invitation, which was never Arthur Lewis's word. Those are the words of Lloyd Best. He used that to describe what was taking place. That was not what Arthur Lewis was thinking about building a country that would be based on exports of the goods and services that you produce. We made cars in Trinidad, for instance, on the basis of material that was brought in, these completely knocked down cars, and we did not re-export them. We sold them to the country, and you may be not old enough like me to remember how poor these cars
I was around. I was around.
How poor they were, and we never exported them. In fact, my own feeling is we could not export them because of the quality.
The standards, we would.
Quite to the contrary. Quite to the contrary, the government imposed what was then something called a negative list, and cars were really on that negative list. That to import a car, it's not that you couldn't import something that was on the negative list. You had to pay a tremendous amount of tax. The consequence of that is, if you were looking in that direction for diversification, is that it failed miserably. In fact, on the morning of, let's call it, the liberalization of the capital account in April 1993, the morning after that, when we could then import cars without that taxation requirement, where foreign exchange became less of a problem to acquire, and so on, the entire auto industry in Trinidad and Tobago folded. All of it. Those under Neil and Massey, the Toyota people, they all shut down. And I mean, and that is the consequence of bad management, bad policies, and so on. So immediately following that, these places shut down, and we are all now importing our cars directly, which is a cost in foreign exchange. It continues to be, which was the same thing with the other one, because we brought in the cars and we never re-exported them. And we never built up an export capability. A diversification in this country means exportation.
Has to be.
If you cannot produce a good that can be exported, that can earn foreign exchange, or the other side, save on foreign exchange, which is harder to do, because nearly everything we need, the mic that I'm talking into, the cup, the nice pep cup that you have me sipping from, everything on that is imported. And even if you are making it here, the raw material has to be imported.
Absolutely.
So we need to have foreign exchange to do that. But
so the job is generating foreign exchange.
That's the real issue. Everything. And there is only one product, well, two, but they are from the same source, that gives us net foreign exchange. And that is oil and gas.
But why not tourism? Tourism is one of the largest industries in the world, yes. And it is a fast way, especially cruise tourism. It's a fast way to generate. The stay cruises is a growing trend where cruise ships.
Trinidad and Tobago has never depended on tourism.
We've never capitalized.
Yeah,
and I want to use that word.
Yeah,
we've never capitalized.
Let me say something. The island of Trinidad is not a source of attraction for natural, what I would call the typical tourist. The sun, sea and sand, maybe the other S word, but not not sun, sea, and sand. They don't come here.
I think Carnival is for the other S word.
They go to Tobago if they want to go anywhere. Now, do you know the largest amount of tourists in Tobago, where they come from? They come from Trinidad. And it's a large number. I was told 90. I suspect that may be a little bit high, but it's not less than 75. I would hazard, I guess.
Yeah, but all of these,
and that means there is no foreign exchange generation.
Exactly. So that is not real tourism. That's internal tourism.
Yeah.
And but what
internal tourism is good.
It may be good, but we're talking generation of foreign exchange.
Yeah.
And generation of foreign exchange is important. And when you say that Trinidad doesn't have a tourist product, I want to beg to differ, because Chagaramas should be a tourist product in and of itself.
Yeah.
Our north coast could be monetized.
You're saying what ought to be.
What ought to be,
I will
right?
want to agree. In fact, Trinidad has a large amount of things that, some of my colleagues, some of them Nobel laureates who have come here to visit, one of the first places they want to go to is the Caroni Swamp, and they want to go to that place in the east, Azarite. That's right. In fact, one of them stayed at the Azarite. Yes,
the Pitch Lake should be a massive tourist.
Yes, but the kind of tourist that comes for that is not your everyday Joe. Your everyday Joe wants to go and get a tan. That's the real problem, and that's why they go to Barbados, or they go to Antigua, or they go to St. Lucia.
Because those countries monetize their beach stock, and we don't do that.
Yes.
Pigeon Point, the hut at the end of the jetty of Pigeon Point has become globally recognized as iconic and symbolic of a tropical vacation. We own Pigeon Point, and we've never properly utilized it.
It's true. And we have never, and it goes back to the very same question, we have never been obliged to develop the tourist product. Let me give a counter example. St. Lucia, which has always developed the tourism product, but they were forced to go into it almost 100%. I exaggerate, I know, when the banana industry faced a crisis, when the Lomé Convention came to an end, and when Cotonou and all those did not do enough to replace the banana protocol, by which St. Lucia and many other countries of the world, including those in the Caribbean, benefited. So, and in many respects, St. Lucia has made a successful transformation into a tourist
economy, and that's the point.
Yeah, and they have done so very well. Now, you have to have there is a certain stock of infrastructure that you must have, and there must be a certain stock of human resources that you should have. If Tobago is the center of our tourism here, there is a lot to be desired from the tourism services that you give.
Okay, but I want to say this now. The tourists, the Tobago people, they get a bad rap from Trinidad, but I have found that Tobagonians understand tourism, and Tobagonians understand tourism just if you follow the development of guest houses and small auto rental companies and little sidewalk cafes. The house of pancakes that all of us go there to eat pancakes for. They set it up for Trinidadians. They set it up for Americans and foreigners who come in here to see a tropical version.
No, that is indeed a different thing. But the point is, what has happened in Tobago, and again I blame the administration. For instance, Tobago at one time had, in addition to a fairly good growing tourism sector, a sound agricultural sector. That doesn't exist anymore.
No, it doesn't.
In fact, they depend on imports that we have from Grenada and St. Vincent.
Yeah, but to save you from coming across as a harbinger of doom, Trinidadians need to understand that all of these things that you're talking about, a lot of them is literally just push play. If we wanted to make Tobago, if the first step was to make Tobago self-sufficient, so that it doesn't draw down $3.5 billion from central government, Trinidad and Tobago, as their budget. So the first target should be to get Tobago through tourism to generate its operating expenses that the THA demands every year. Then to grow from there. We can easily do that. When you look at the amount of people that just go to France to visit the Notre Dame Cathedral, you know the size of the tourism market in the world. But you said you need to have a product, something for them to come and see.
That is the point. And you see,
Why haven't we developed our product? We have so
And-
much
and
natural raw.
it needs developing. It's not that you're just going to go to Tobago. In fact, my own suspicion is that given the changing tastes of the modern tourist, especially the young, environmentally conscious people, he or she is more likely to come to the island of Trinidad because they want to see things that we have here, the little frogs and the little snakes, the scarlet ibis,
Yeah,
and
but
so on.
also, I mean, Tobago has a natural advantage over a lot of destinations. The brain coral, I mean, the Bucco Reef that we destroy and dragging the anchors across the reef, that has been spoken about for decades. Nobody doing anything about that. I say all the time, if any other tropical destination in the world had a nylon pool, they'd be doing shows about it.
And that is true, and it's not happening. And that so
Globally, people will be watching it on Travel Channel and Discovery.
I'll buy your concern that the product has not been developed. But you see, I have a colleague, in fact, I just spoke to him on the phone, who likes to liken the oil sector to Brian Lara. And he says that when you have Brian Lara on the other end, and you are batting on the air, you don't care, you go in there and you vote because you know you have somebody down there who will get you runs. When you have an oil sector that gives you the revenues that you have, and especially when people feel that it will never end. We had a prime minister who was convinced, he was a very religious man, I must say, he was convinced that all this talk about the oil running out or the oil...
Or the end of King Oil.
Yeah, he just didn't believe that because he would say that we have been saying that since the turn of the 20th century. And that is true. People were exaggerating that, but my own feeling is that you should not look at it that way.
But he didn't learn from history. He should have looked at the whale oil industry and he would have realized that everything comes to an end.
That is true. And what has now happened and what we are seeing happening, you take what is going on between Russia and Saudi Arabia. Both of them, Russia at this point in time more than Saudi Arabia, could live on oil at $20 a barrel.
And that is another point. Because when we're talking the price of oil, isn't the important thing the cost to the country to extract and produce?
There is that. But
isn't ours artificially high?
It is high because of the kinds of, we are not as lucky as Saudi Arabia where you go and kick the ground and you get oil. That is true. But it is a fact that the cost is fairly standard, whatever it is. The higher the price of the barrel, the better we are. There is absolutely no
because
doubt.
of our cost to produce.
No, but that is just the fact that
you get more profit. I understand that, but I'm saying to you, Saudi Arabia, the king said oil can reach $1.
No, but he said
will damage his economy.
These days, I am not sure that is true in the case of Saudi Arabia, but I'm not going to go into that discussion. No, I think it is true for Russia at this point in time. So Saudi Arabia cannot afford to let it go too far all the same. I will see who will blink first in this.
But we getting caught up in something. Trinidad's getting caught up and trampled by some big elephants fighting now. We were benefiting from a pretty stable and settled global oil economy.
We were not these days.
No.
Oil has
the
never.
Price.
Oil
I'm not talking about the price, but I'm just talking that the OPEC regime. We've come far from the price wars. There are people who are full adults, and this is the first time they're hearing about an oil price war. OPEC has done a decent enough job.
Not too long ago, there was something of a price war, which caused the Saudis a lot of grief. The Saudis started to overproduce. This about 4 to 5 years ago, and not even so much. Where given the threat of shale, they started to produce. They wanted to destroy the shale market, because once the price of oil rises, shale becomes profitable. Shale is a fairly expensive thing
to produce
relative to the
standard
oil that we have. Shale is a nasty oil, but and so on. But it will take. If the price goes to $100, it becomes more than profitable to produce shale. They will not make as much as the people producing.
But wasn't shale supposed to be a last resort when the rest of oil run out? How we end up with such a big shale oil industry now?
Because shale is available in many countries.
Is it
oil and gas? It's available nearly everywhere, and it helps for people who depend on oil. It decreases their dependence on foreign vagaries and movement in the price of oil and so on. It is not. If we had shale, I am sure that we would have developed it.
We didn't develop
complain-
it. Why would we develop shale?
Well, we would have attempted to because people would have come. People would have come to do it. The pitch is a different matter. Let's
Who owns the pitch lake?
At the moment, it's the government of Trinidad.
Are you sure?
Well, as far as I
I asked the ex-prime minister and he didn't know.
Yeah.
Where is the accounting for the pitch lake? Where does it come? It doesn't come in the budget. I can't find it. Where is the accounting for the performance?
Well, let me
of the
put it
pitch lake?
this way: there's a board of directors overlooking the activities of the pitch league, and that is appointed by the government. I have to assume that it is owned by the government of Trinidad. Well, when I say by the government, by the state. It's owned by the
managed by the government.
By the state.
But why don't we know what's going on with our pitch lake?
I am not sure that we don't know. What we know is that it's not doing very well. That's that's the fact, and the figures that are available are showing us that it's not bringing in a great amount of money, and it's not serving the
But
country.
road surfacing and waterproofing, that you trying to tell me that our pitch lake does not have a market on this planet? China is putting down 1,000 miles of road a day.
Having a market. And
Trinidad putting down 1,000 miles of road a day. They're not using our pitch.
Having a market and making money through the front things. If you are unable to capitalize on what is a favorable market, you will not make money. And
who's competing with us for pitch?
Remember, pitch is also a byproduct of other systems, like the production of oil and so on. That gives you things like bitumen and so on. So yes, we are probably the best source. I'm saying that without knowing.
But it should be the cheapest source.
It probably is, and I can't say I am an expert on it. I don't know, but we must not assume that because we have it, it will be good for us, especially in a context where people are unable to capitalize and to do things on the markets. We don't know. When you go to the
have we properly monetized it?
As far as I am aware, no. I don't think that it is. In fact, it's not even spoken about in any.
That's my
any
point.
major way.
What was Labidco supposed to be?
That is.
Was Labidco supposed to monetize?
That's the company that oversees the pitch lake.
But there was supposed to be a whole.
It has not. It clearly has not worked. And if you look at the way the board has changed over time, some of the complaints coming from the board, some of the complaints coming from the people of Labrie. It's one of the most depressed areas in the country. Labrie, in fact, they have to fight for
Labrie and Point Fortin have somebody was roads.
Yeah, and part of that is to do with the pitch lake.
The pitch lake is responsible for the condition of the roads.
In the pitch area, not the pitch lake.
We have places that are like Taruba.
Yes.
Look at Taruba Road, Taruba Link Road.
Yeah.
The amount of money that was spent 10 years ago, they redid the entire road.
Like that.
Look at it now.
Yeah, you're saying things that are not untrue, and so on. The fact is, and this is the point I wanted to make generally, we have not, when the situation is good as it was in the 70s or as it was in the early 2000s, those were the periods when we could have financed innovation leading to diversification. That's when we had the money to do it. That's when we could have afforded at that point in time to lose money, you take a chance on. That is precisely when we decided that we were not diversifying because the oil and gas.
We got another boom.
Were doing us
Under Patrick Manning, we got a bigger boom.
Yes, it was a big boom, but diversification.
We got an oil and a gas boom.
There is always lip service to diversification, but diversification does just happen like that. And the worst thing is when.
Okay, it may not happen like that, but up to the 70s we were a net food exporter. We don't have to get something that replaces oil and gas. We could have a plan for the country that says, all right, let's get to 50% reliance on energy, and then let's get to 25% reliance on energy. Let's diversify into tourism and into manufacture and into agro-processing. The value of agro-processing and food processing to the United States of America. Look, the new gold rush is marijuana, medicinal marijuana. Why are we so far behind the curve where that is concerned? And we have so many thousands of acres pushing razor grass.
Some of these things, but up to today.
It's called weed for a reason. They can grow on concrete, you know.
What is, in the case of marijuana, we are behind.
So far behind the curve.
We are going to remain behind. In
but
fact,
why?
In the Caribbean, And it's because of the history of the thing. Up to today, when everybody is saying that legalization is around the corner.
Jamaica branding.
Yeah. You are still arresting people.
You still have people incarcerated. Yeah.
For weed and so on. It's that there is the people.
Okay, but forget this government's bipolar approach to it. If we look at it as from a national perspective, Trinidad and Tobago could put our idle land stocks to work growing strains of medicinal marijuana and sell to the big countries.
Yeah, but that
is there have we missed the boat? Is California and Chile and the other countries that jumped on the bandwagon?
The fact is, people have been preparing now for years for this opportunity, and people in the United States in particular. Cigarette companies are preparing for the day.
Jamaica is branding. Jamaica has started to capitalize on the Bob Marley influence and marijuana consumption.
We can to compare Trinidad and Tobago with Jamaica. The marijuana trade in Jamaica is probably the largest source of foreign exchange and has been for some time now. When you go into Jamaica and you hear about levels of unemployment, and you look around and see a certain amount, the informal sector in Jamaica is very, very large, and a lot of that probably is financed by marijuana.
But last year Jamaica said that the economy turned a corner, they could pay their light bills.
Yes, and you have to, when in 2008, I remember this, Jamaica depends a lot on what we call remittances. And in 2008, when the crisis hit, every one of us, the economists, predicted that people who depend on remittances are going to suffer because the people who
source of
earn
funds
will
dry up.
You know, it didn't dry up in Jamaica. And one of the reasons for that is that those remittances are very likely money from the marijuana production coming back into Jamaica, and that didn't stop. And therein lies the...
But if California could have benefited, if marijuana cultivation could have become California #1 cash crop, and California has the 13th largest economy in the world by itself. If California could have stepped out, what's keeping us from writing legislation today and planting weed tomorrow?
I don't know how you expect me to answer that. You know the answer already. We are not a country that has that kind of proactive approach to anything. We don't have a solid entrepreneurial class. We don't have a very supportive government. And I'm not talking about the current...
I disagree with what you just said, because this last 4.5 years decimated the middle class. It decimated people who, if given the opportunity to expand into different industries, would have attempted. Our middle class for a time.
Where have you seen in this country an active entrepreneurial class that earns foreign exchange? I'll tell you.
Because we spent tens of millions of dollars on Intech Park in Wallerfield.
That's a different matter.
No, but wait. But we spent the money.
But what happened?
The nature has taken Intech Park back, including the building that we built as the test building. When last have you been there?
So you say, no, I haven't been there for a long time.
But the whole globe.
So what is, are you saying then?
Patrick, it comes down to a vision for your people and a vision for your country. Look at what India did. India moved from slums of the world in 40 years to the largest middle class on planet Earth on basically cornering and corralling information systems and IT.
I am not disagreeing, but the essential point I am making is we do not have a vibrant entrepreneurial class.
Because we have no leadership.
No, that's a different matter. I am telling you that...
You train everybody in oil and you pay everybody for oil, and then everybody will want to get into oil.
And do you know, and this is where one of the... Because we did some studies while I was at the university, and those studies continue. One of the best possibilities we have in diversifying this economy is in using that expertise we developed in the oil sector at all levels. I mean, including legal services, accounting services.
But we don't own it.
And that's not true.
The people are trained and they're going global.
The skills that the people have acquired, there are many, if not most of them, are Trinidadians, and they sell their services now.
Yeah, but they're selling their services personally.
Yes, I know.
They migrated. It's like our pilots.
No, they're not. Many of them not migrated.
Like our pilots or like our doctors. We put doctors on scholarship. We trained them and lost them all.
It's a source of income that we have even on the ground here in Trinidad. One of the most vibrant sectors in this country is that what we could call the services,
Oil service industry.
the services sector to the
But
petroleum.
how do we as a nation capitalize on
No,
that?
that is what you have to do, because, and this is a problem that you're going to find with almost everything, for instance, like in the cultural sector. Once you are not, the skills or the product that you offer is not tied to the land where the government could tax it, many of these people are not going to stay here. Now, then you start to look at the other aspect of why someone may prefer, he could live here, he would have a house here, but he would not live here. I'm going to call a name, let's say Marshall Montano. I'm not saying that he does this. I am quite sure that Marshall Montano generates a lot of foreign exchange. But people like Marshall Montano, I hope he doesn't sue me.
Use David Rudder, who's living in Canada.
No, I'm talking about Marshall, who's
actively generating
presence here. Yes, and who I am sure, like Bob Marley, generated foreign exchange. It does not come back into this country. If you can assure me, and this is where our government comes into it, if you can assure me that if I should bring my foreign exchange back into this country, not protected, that I could get it back when I want it, that nobody's going to come and stick a gun in my neck and take on, because the criminal activity in this country is something that discourages economic activity.
But then
we must not separate the
I hear that, and then I realize, then I get information that Rwanda and Colombia are topping the charts in tourism now. Rwanda, that had massacres in the street.
But do they still have the criminal problem that you're talking about?
Rwanda lost so much of its men that it has the greatest amount of women in a parliament in any country.
I am unfamiliar. I know Rwanda is doing well economically. I am not sure.
But look at the Colombia model. Colombia that is scorned globally because of cocaine.
But what is the current situation? They have, in fact, they had offered to send.
Look at Mexico. Mexico has 6 and 7 star resorts. Mexico, that is the killing fields of the drug trade now.
Yes.
So you need to be able to take everything and work it and manage it and still take it forward.
The places where tourists go in Mexico are not gone. The very drug lords may have investments in those places.
Absolutely. So, avocado now is a massive industry in Mexico.
That we have a situation here where a businessman is not keen on investing, not because he's not seeing the possibility of return, but because he's worried about his personal safety. He's worried about the safety of the funds that he will accumulate, and that is the environment you have.
Okay, so then let's come to that. So then let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. What you just spoke about there, the violent crime.
The enabling environment is important.
Okay, so talk about that. Talk about why has no government. I ask a former prime minister. When the Scott drug report, Justice Scott Commission of Inquiry into the drug trade in Trinidad and Tobago, that was a duly commissioned and carried out commission of inquiry that created a report that we now refer to as the Scott drug report. Why that couldn't be laid in the parliament? It named so many people in society that there was a fear that this report could damage the country. And nobody since. I asked Bastio Pandey in an interview last week.
What is the point you're trying to make?
Why? Because the drug trade is the beating heart of all our low-level crime. It's what funds it. It's what they fight over. That's where the guns come from.
And that is so. But how does that in any way negate?
Why has not one of our governments? You see, you're speaking at it strictly from an economics point of view, and you're telling me that this impacts upon it. So I'm asking you, if we go down the road of government is responsible for growing and stewarding the economy, if you say that a major impact on that growth...
Suppose, and I'm not accusing anybody, suppose you are in the pay of these people, will you take action against them? And you see, the question you have to ask is, how far have the tentacles of these people reached? Let's take the police service, right? I feel I'm on safer ground because quite recently, 2 policemen have been named as being involved in corrupt activity.
a commissioner was named in the Scott drug report. Have you read the Scott drug report?
Yes. So I can't remember the details, but it named a lot of people who should not.
Randolph Burroughs was named.
So what you have now as a reality is you have corruption at every
Systemic.
level, including corruption that could kill you. To the extent that, for instance, you deal with someone in the police service at a particular level in a particular way, they could kill you because they have the arms and they could cover it up. If you have all our institutions rotten to the core, how it's a tremendous task to begin thinking how to deal with
So
it.
then let's see.
So when people keep calling on the police commissioner alone to do it,
and that's why I defend him, because the country is rotten to the core. So you just said it, right?
Yes.
So we started off the conversation about where we are economically and where we could be economically, but you've just opened the whole cancer that what is wrong with Trinidad and Tobago is Trinidad is broken. It is corrupt. It is a narco state. Tell me where I'm going wrong.
No.
I retract anything that you
No,
want me
I
to
am
retract.
not. I'm not saying to retract. I'm just not going to repeat it myself. I don't.
I want to ask you this.
We have a
I
lot.
want to tell you this.
Yeah.
In the Ministry of National Security, because I've read it,
Yes.
and I was a communications advisor to Gary Griffith when he was the Minister of National Security. There is a whole plan to end the drug trade in Trinidad and Tobago called the Maritime Security War, which literally repurposes oil barges 3 miles out at sea to equip them with helicopter gunships, interceptor boats, refurbish them to house customs, immigration,
You could put
law enforcement,
anything-
connected by the 360-degree radar.
But if you put all these things up, and they appear as nothing more than show, if in the final analysis the people who are conducting it, right,
Can be corrupted too.
You answer one question. When last have we? There probably is something that I missed. Have we charged and convicted someone for white collar crime in a very, very serious way? You take what went on with AV oil, which to me was a scandalous situation. It's nothing has happened, and nothing will happen. In fact, I am convinced that certain things related to what happened at Petrotrin was something as a result of an attempt to cover
Mass cover-up.
that up.
Yeah.
So we are living in
Mr.
a society.
Professor, and I say Mr. Watson, Professor, the Prime Minister of the country was named as an associate of the central character in the AV oil matter.
Yes.
The Prime Minister hired himself an attorney to represent him in that matter, and then appointed that attorney as the chairman of Petrotrin. Now you explain to anybody outside of this banana republic how that could be rational and possible. Where is the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago?
Why are you looking for rationality when other interests may be involved? And you see, this is where we have a problem. So let me get back to something that I feel more comfortable with, that the general situation of crime, including what you just mentioned. If people are tied hand and foot to those who are in the forefront of criminal activity, white collar crime of any kind, including in the hierarchy of the police service, who are there to protect and serve us to protect us from these kinds of people, where are we going? There is going to be, there's something that the English called the root and branch movement. There is going to have to be a rooting out of roots, in addition to the cutting of branches. Cutting of branches don't help you.
Yeah, but Professor, there are solutions to all of these problems.
And yes, I agree.
There are solutions. All we need is the will to fix them.
Uh-huh.
So if the public that have been kept in the dark,
The will and the ability.
the ability comes with the will. The people who've been kept in the dark, our media don't talk these things. You're asking about white collar crime, and we put everything together as one big mysterious thing. Our entire economy cannot account for all of the money that we earned from our oil industry. There's nothing to show for the trillions of dollars. Our actual budgeted totals that we spent from 62 to now is $2 million short of $1 trillion.
And that is precisely the problem.
Where is that money?
We had a prime minister of Jamaica, who made a statement that you may be aware of, and he said the oil money went through this country
like a dose of
like a dose of salt. And that is exactly what I mean. What do we have to show for what has happened here? Absolutely nothing. Let's take I suspect that is what you're looking at there. The
sovereign wealth fund. Sovereign wealth funds.
Let's take that fund, which was grudgingly started. I want to go back to how this thing was started. I'm trying to remember the term. It was the Basil Pandey government of the late 90s that introduced something like, I think he used the word temporary wealth fund or something like that. There was some word like that. It hadn't yet morphed into what is now the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. For years, people have been recommended. It's a fund that he started to put aside, his government started to put aside money from the oil side. When the price of oil was $0 a barrel, I will say that. What happened afterwards, and this was despite many years of people like myself calling for the creation of such a fund, it was only when a new prime minister came into office in the late 1990s that was able to happen. I'm not trying to praise Basil Pandey or anything, but those are the facts. That the Heritage and Stabilization Fund had its genesis in the Basil Pandey administration of the late 1990s. When the PNM came back into office following, first of all, the Robinson episode and then the defeat of the UNC in 2002, it became known as the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, and which was, even then people criticized it as having those two parts of it, because in most countries, Norway for instance,
sovereign
it is
fund.
Purely heritage.
Sovereign wealth fund.
Yes, purely heritage.
Right.
And in some countries, and Norway may be one, to touch that fund requires a referendum. I'm not sure if it's true.
Not simple cabinet, not simple
parliament.
parliament.
You can't just go in.
Not even parliament.
But the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, for instance, what has happened to us recently with this shock in the price of oil? We can now enter into the stabilization part of that, and let it down. Now, it has not been growing much of late, and in fact, it's about 6.5 billion US at this point in time. And it may have taken a terrible hit with the recent fall in the price, because what we do is we invest the money in fairly safe, and we have to complement the central bank for that. So we get general interest.
Why?
No, because it earns us money.
Why you say you have to complement the central bank?
Because they manage it. They manage the fund. They cannot determine the size of the fund that they have to manage, but whatever they get, they manage it, and it has not done badly. They, by no standard, has it done
1.5% return.
It has.
That's safe.
I know, but it's very, very, very safe what they do, and it's largely
no wild investments.
No. It's largely. In fact, I don't think.
But how do you justify?
No, let's not go. Let's keep out of that discussion. I don't want to talk about the central bank's management of it.
No. I was going to ask you, how do you justify our fund being $6 billion US?
No, I want to come to that. It should have been much, much, much more. And in fact, on a per capita basis, compared to Norway, it's minuscule. You can't even see it relative to what Norway is.
Norway got oil after us.
Norway always had oil, but I don't think they have as long a history as oil production as we do. One important point to remember: the Norwegians own their oil. So the history of our oil is that it has always belonged to somebody else. The largest source of our oil and gas today continues to be BP. That is not we. What?
So we exist on royalties and taxes.
But that is how
Gary Aboud said in a show with me that we have no way of knowing what was the true value of the oil that was extracted from Trinidad and Tobago.
That is true, but we should not run away with every little thing that comes at
No,
our head.
but if that-
I want to point out, you raise a point that I want to. Yes, it is true. It is the government's ability to tax those who produce oil and gas in Trinidad and Tobago that allows oil and gas money to enter into.
So we don't have an oil industry.
No. Well, we had some things in Petrotrin, and we do have, but the contribution of Petrotrin and others to oil production is nothing compared to the production of BP. And BP produces the lion's share of the oil and gas in Trinidad and Tobago, and we depend on almost uniquely on BP to pay our public servants and all of that. That is the fact. That's where the money comes from. If BP does not pay its taxes on time, we have a problem. In fact, sometimes in the past they have been paying it up front. In other words, they're giving their trust in, they're paying their monies up front when it was as bad as that. When the price of oil is low and the revenues that BP is going to get from oil is low, we are going to get even less. That's how it ends. It's not our oil and our gas. So that's the important. But there has been a reluctance of government after government, in particular PNM administrations, to put more and more money
from these royalties and taxes
into the
state.
But
to the people who watching this show, and I don't want anybody to kill themselves because you making me feel suicidal. That if BP Amoco goes away, Trinidad goes away, that we in a lot of trouble. That everything that we think is the nation state of Trinidad and Tobago is just one big illusion.
But I don't know how people don't know that.
But Patrick, there is one big illusion.
I don't know how people don't know that the real producers of oil in this country and is BP, and notwithstanding the prominence of gas in recent years, oil still remains extremely important, and the price of oil is always highly correlated with the price of gas, and for obvious reasons. These days it has been moving away a little bit. The correlation is not as strong as it used to be, but it is still there.
In 2 days of this price war, we've taken a $3.5 billion hit on our budget.
And more is to come, More is to come because there are political reasons for Russia behaving in the way that it does, because I think the real target is the United States of America.
To destroy shale oil.
For whatever reason. Now, that was Saudis. That was the Saudis. The goal.
Somebody said that this is also a way to put a leash on China, who was running away. That the coronavirus that has damaged them economically, that the timing of this price war is to hobble them. China was becoming the most powerful nation in the world.
I don't want to discuss that. I mean,
that's global politics.
Yeah, that may be true, but I am not sure. It is true that they will hit China wherever they can and whenever they can, but they have to be very silly to hit China too hard, because a lot of their manufactured goods.
China is the counterbalance.
Yeah, that's where it comes from.
China is the counterbalance.
It comes from China.
But Trinidad and Tobago that went through 4.5 years of a recession while the rest of the global economy grew 3%, and I never understood that. I never understood why we were in a recession, why we were having all of this negative growth when the rest of the world was growing. Why weren't we capitalizing on that growth?
Well, what will you capitalize with? If you have things for them to buy, suppose we produced, I don't know, computers, and they were buying it, then you could sell them. We have been producing since whenever till now oil and gas. That's what we really produce. If we have, and even then, because even if the price of oil should go up to 200, we are not going to be able to benefit, let's say, as Venezuela will, or
Norway,
or Norway,
who own their oil.
What has happened in recent times is that our production of oil and gas is in decline. When I was a child, when I was in secondary school, presentation college, you asked me how many barrels of oil we produce. I used to say 100,000. And that was never wrong, but sometimes it was much more than 100, and probably sometimes it was a little bit less. But someone would get a fair idea if I say we produce 100,000 barrels a day. That is no longer the case, and has not been so for some time now. We are in the region of 60,000.
To the viewers, but to the viewers,
yes.
You said our budget is predicated on what we make from taxation and royalties from companies like BP Amoco,
Yes.
and it is pegged to the production of oil.
Yes.
Our budgets, even though our main income has been in decline for decades, our budgets went from 10 billion, 20 billion, 30 billion, 40 billion, 50 billion. We've hovered around 60 billion for an entire decade. We've been deficit financing this country.
And that's because we are not getting the kinds of money from oil as is required.
But why are we allowing governments to spend as wildly as
we are
they
not allowing
spend?
Governments have that power.
No, but the
When
people
we
have the
elect
power
them-
over government.
How is that?
In any real
Only when
country,
they vote them out.
but no, but in any real country, the government accounts day to day, and the government is responsible day to day. Only in Trinidad and Tobago is the
that
government
is
given
the-
a 5-year rump, and I want to come to a point. The government is given a 5-year rump right now. The same Minister of Finance that is saying we're taking a $3.5 billion hit, we are also engaged in some wild vanity spending on some crazy projects. We're playing musical buildings. We moved the Parliament from the waterfront to a $500 million red house. Now we're moving the Hall of Justice to the waterfront for $56 million.
I saw
What's happening with the Hall of Justice building?
On a Facebook page the other day. One of my friends, Facebook friends, who has some architectural qualities, he borrowed from a friend who has those. He showed an alternative to building the overpass at Kirab, and he showed it in the form of a big roundabout and so on, where they can have the same effect, probably even a better effect, without spending this set of money. And somebody responded, "You are supposing that the intention is to have efficient movement. The idea may be to put money in people's pockets."
Professor Watson, to the average person, you are a thought leader. You are an educated man. You are a professor, and you are supposed to have a voice. Why are you and people like you not using your voices to guide the government away from the madness of the tax and spend regime?
That is not true.
But I'm saying,
we do. And do you remember? Our
you,
names, 5 of us, we were called out in Parliament and buffed up.
But bullying by government is a
I know, but that has not stopped us. You look at people like myself, Mala Dukaran, Roger Hussain, Mariano Brown.
But why haven't we moved to the courts? Why haven't we moved to the courts? Why haven't we hired attorneys and filed actions against the state? I want to tell you something. As the leader of a political movement that is fighting the government, I got 25 responses today from UDCOT for 25 different. We just built. Yesterday, the whole country was distracted by the Minister of National Security falling on a staircase. You know what's the real story? We spent $71 million to build that fire station that should not cost $7 million. We are spending money wild, not that it is going.
I'm not sure if a government has the power under the Constitution to do the budget. I'm not sure what I could take them to court for on that. I'm not a lawyer, and believe me, I'm not about to engage in. I don't have court clothes, as they say, but I don't have court money to start with, and certainly not money to lose. My activity and the activity of many others.
You're not still a highly paid professor. What does emeritus mean?
No, that simply means it's a title that I get. You only get that when you're retired, and if they believe that you have a certain.
No big pension. You don't want to lose it.
No, I can't lose that. That's not the issue. I am not in any way being paid by the University of the West Indies.
No. Just come back to the point.
Yeah, it's the reality is there's nothing illegal that they do in formulating the budget. What they are doing may be bad increasing the debt to the country. And that
I
is-
can't
that
let
is
you
what-
say that.
Yeah.
I can't let you say that there's nothing illegal that they're doing when they're formulating the budget. If we're spending $71 million to build a fire station that shouldn't cost
That's
10.
the fun matter. In
No, it's not. That's the budget. That's the budget.
Yeah.
If we give in Tobago $2.5 billion a year,
Budget.
and Tobago, the THA has not accounted for that money for 15 years, how is that not illegal?
The budget is passed in the Houses of Parliament. It is passed in both houses.
What
of
is the
Parliament.
budget?
If you are telling me that this 71 million was budgeted for, is that they agreed to that in the Parliament, the people whom we elected to be there. Even if there's some thievery going on, okay? Who,
You use the word even faster.
yeah,
Luz.
yeah. Whom do I put in court? So I'm saying that we can simply say that they should not build this station, or they should really try and find a way to do it, but that they should choose to spend 71 million instead of 7. And I'm taking your word for it in that regard. There's very little that we can do about it at this point in time. What happens is when the time comes,
Professor,
we could protest in the streets.
Professor, we spent over $1 billion to build a stadium that was budgeted for $100 million. And that $100 million was already overinflated. We spent $567 million to build Napa that was budgeted for $134 million. And I'm saying to you that people like you see, to the average person, the reason the average person has lost faith in leadership in this country, they're jaded. When you talk politics to them, they don't believe a word you say.
Exactly.
Because everything that comes from the top,
Exactly.
the average person sees. A mason, they call me and they tell me, boss, I work on this project, I work on that
And
project.
that is exactly what is happening, and that is why, in fact, the people who
Boss, the average person who
have-
lifting the drugs out the pre-rug.
they have people advising them who, in terms of qualifications and in appearance, they look just like me. They look just like me. So is my word against their own? They have some.
But is your facts against theirs?
Yeah, I know, but you were talking about taking to court. And
Facts
that
is
kind of-
what, but that's what court is for.
Yeah,
Somebody to weigh the facts.
Yeah, but
The court's supposed to be predicated on the wisdom of Solomon.
Court if they do something illegal. Anyway, I don't want to. go
Whose
down that line.
whose responsibility
Yes.
in this country? And also,
Why are you trying to put the burden of running the government on the backs of people like me? I don't
no, I'm
understand.
not. I'm not saying on the backs of people like you,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that the average person, they're looking for people with knowledge to guide them through the morass of misinformation.
Yes.
People don't know. I remember when Gary Hunt was pulled low, because that was the time of $1 billion for the Tobago Scarborough Hospital, $1 billion for Taruba, and $1 billion for Napa and Sapa, and people didn't have an understanding of what $1 billion really was, but they knew that a flag couldn't cost $2 million.
Yes.
They had an understanding, and that incensed them. They got to that I believe is one of the
that
reasons.
is fine.
When he asked if we didn't know the value of national pride, after they lost the election, I told him 16 seats, sir. That's the value.
And that is where the cost will come. That is where the blow will come.
But if now the
The
people
blow
only
will
have
come.
choices,
Uh-huh.
where they voted one government into office and they rob them blind. So they vote another government into office and they rob them blind again. So they vote back the first government and they rob them again. And every single time they vote one of these governments into office, the robbery that they robbed before, they increase it exponentially. So that the public believes that there's abuser A or abuser B. Do you think that we can, as a nation, find ourselves away from abuser A and abuser
Of
B?
course we can. Of course we can.
Would you be willing to
Yeah.
give your knowledge and experience and
As
expertise
far as I am
into
concerned-
building
as-
a better tomorrow for Trinidad and
As far as I'm
Tobago?
concerned, I'm always doing that. You may not like how I do it.
He is very vague and evasive when he's ready.
No, not
Nah,
at all.
nah, just joking.
You
But you
are-
brought a lot to the conversation,
Yeah.
and I know that you're always on a timer, so that I am so happy that we got you in the studio today.
My
And
pleasure to be here.
that hour flew fast. Give me your closing comments and as much as you want.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say that I haven't already said. The fact is, certainly when I came here, I thought we were going to be concentrating, and we have in a way concentrated on it, what the state of the economy is and where we're going. And you in a way said I was preaching doom and gloom, and in a way I am, because given the way we are structured, given the way the economy is functioning, and given the way the price of oil is not likely to change in the near future, and it's likely to be, in fact, not change from upward, it's likely to be heading
war
downward.
would increase the price. Somebody just had to bomb somebody.
The kinds of conditions that we have historically have led to war. That is true. And my own suspicion is if this were the 1930s, we would already had a war. But when people have the ultimate weapon, you're not going to go to war so easily. At least you're not going to go to war with each other, except by proxy, as they are doing now in places like Yemen or Syria and so on. So you're not going to see a direct confrontation between the United States and China and so on, except as a very, very, very last resort. And if that happens, it will be a war to end all wars, and probably a war to
Somebody said World War III will be fought with nuclear bombs. World War IV will be fought with sticks. There'll be nothing left.
Yeah. No, and that's how it is. I am not in any way anticipating a breakout of hostilities. I'm really hoping more than anything else. Although with some of these people in charge, you could never tell.
I think that was a little swipe at.
No swipe at anybody. Quite to the contrary, because if people think that Donald Trump is a warmonger, he talks a lot. Unlike Obama used to bomb you. Obama is one of the biggest bombers in the history of the United States of America.
Media frames the narrative. I mean, they say that the same movie you go to, that media could take you to the movies and you come away supporting the cowboys. You go and you watch the same movie written differently, you come away supporting the Indians.
Yes. Anyway, so yes, there are people around who want war, and in the end, it hardly depends on who is sitting in that seat in Washington. It's going to depend a lot on the interests that are behind it, and you do have people who depend a lot on the war industry to live.
No, but if you fracture the American economy, they will hit back, and they'll hit back hard, because they know that war will send the price of oil back through the roof.
Yeah, but they are not.
But they're not foolish to go into a war that could damage them.
I think if it's anything that Trump has shown is that he has been actually trying to avoid such a thing. He's a buffoon. He's all kinds of things. But in the end, he ain't looking for any war that will damage him. He's not doing that. Look how quickly he dealt with the Iran situation. That he
North Korea.
Yeah. So, but
I agree with you.
Yeah. Others will have rushed into it and
Let me ask you a question that people want me to ask you. Do you believe that our economy could be turned around and made profitable if there was a government in office that had that as a goal?
All governments claim to have that as a goal. You see,
I need you to answer that question.
No, the short answer is yes, but you have to understand that the government in power is more than just the people sitting in the parliament, people sitting in cabinet and so on. There are usually a lot of entrenched interests pulling a lot of strings, and and that has been going on since 1956.
So you're saying that one of the ways forward for this country is to vote for a government not connected to special interests that dictates how government plays.
And if and when that happens, don't think that the special interests are not going to try to infiltrate you anyway.
Or to impact upon your policies in some way.
And sometimes I always tell people about this film, the Elliot Ness film, The Untouchables or whatever it was called. Right within inside his own police precinct, had policemen working against him and killing out members.
No, Trinidad is corrupted.
Yeah,
Trinidad corrupted to the core.
It's not easy to do these things. It's not as simple as putting a government. You're going to have a government that
but you have to start somewhere.
You have to have a government that the people support, as they did in Singapore. You have to have a man like Lee Kuan Yew.
Lee Kuan Yew is
not necessarily with his authoritarian
strong man. I don't think strongman politics is what we need.
No, but he must have the authority. Putin is a good example. Putin is an example of someone who embodies the authority of the Russian people. They all love him, and he does whatever he wants. Now, that is not necessarily a good thing if you're doing rubbish. If you have a situation where...
Are you advocating for a kind and benevolent dictator?
No, I am not. I'm just telling you that because Lee Kuan Yew had those symptoms. People have called him a dictator. But look what the consequences are.
The net result.
A country that is super rich.
First world, developed.
Where everybody has all
tops the
kinds
charts.
of fancy
It
cars
tops
and
the
so on.
charts on everything.
So what you want to call me is your business, provided that...
My accomplishment. Judge me by my accomplishments. Yeah.
And that is the point. And I am not in any way advocating for this or that dictator or the other. You must have the people behind you. If you are doing the will of the people, they could call me what they want. All right, and that is the long and the short of it. I don't think any politician in the current administration will have that support. One will have a certain group going behind him because he looks in
we're doing gang politics now.
Yeah.
We leveraging gangs of people that you could bring 50, you could bring 100, just put all together and go with that. We have no clear decisive leaders in either of option A or option B, as much as some would like to label themselves that way, because the people of Trinidad and Tobago do not see themselves in these parties anymore.
That is true for most of us, but there is a solid minority and they are vocal, they are in good places, they speak on behalf of these.
So you're saying that the job is to mobilize the conscientious majority.
You have, for years now, the majority of people. Look at in 2007. That's a year I like to point to. Notwithstanding the trauma that was associated with voting for the COP, about 25% of the population voted for the COP.
It's very trauma.
The trauma because they knew, many of them suspected, as I did because I was one of those who voted for the COP, that voting for the COP meant that you would either benefit the PNM or you would benefit the UNC in your particular constituency. 25% of the vote, not a damn seat. You understand that?
But if Winston Ducaran,
no, I don't.
Who's a friend of yours?
I don't want to go.
Let me ask you one question. Congress of the People, 2007 experience, 150,000 votes. If that 25% in 2010, if they did not go into partnership, if the Congress at that time, Patrick Manning was widely despised. This is the election he lost. They stoned him with mango in Bally's house. 2010, Congress of the People as an independent third force,
Yes.
on the heels of the 2007 experience where people saw a large number of people voted for them, could they have taken the election? Or would it still have been the same net result?
I don't know if they could have taken the election, but the error that was made was not maintaining its own personal
Identity.
inside of the partnership.
Yeah.
Too many people got absorbed into the administration. One of them started to wear a yellow and white shirt.
I don't want to talk COP business here, but I just wanted to know from you if you believe.
I don't think they could have won.
But no, right now,
2010.
the largest portion of people, all of the charismatic personalities are gone.
Let me tell you the fears people have when they go into that polling booth. When you don't know what you're... It's not like France, where you get a shot today and you could eliminate the unnecessary things, and then it comes down to 2 people the following Sunday, which I think is a good situation. And that's what I would have like that, yes. That you go today and you have 100 people and you bring it down to 2. So you vote in the first instance because you love the person, not because of the party. When I vote in Chaguanas East for a candidate, in my mind, I know I am voting for the Prime Minister, who I want to be Prime Minister. If I vote for a person in Chaguanas East and I think that if I have a choice about him and I foul up on that choice and I facilitate somebody who I utterly despise into becoming Prime Minister, I am likely to vote for someone who I think will I am not saying that I will do that, because this time I am.
No, but I was a member of the COP in 2007 too, and my constituency was Diego Martin West. I disagreed with the candidate. At that point in time, like most of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, I didn't know the true character of Keith Rowley. This was on his ascendancy after he had his big fallout with Patrick Manning, and in 2007 I voted for Rowley because I thought that was the better candidate for the parliament. And I'm wondering, how do we get the people, because you just said that somebody in Chaguanas East is actually voting, or somebody in Diego Martin West is actually voting, or Northeast thinking of who might be Prime Minister. But that's not our system. We do it, and we use it for that. And that's the contradiction and possibly the political conundrum. Because we have a system set up where for you to be Prime Minister, you have to pull 40 people along with you, and make all of that fly, and build all of that, knowing that people not voting for John, Mary, and Smith, they're voting for the Prime Minister.
Because what we do is
John, Mary, and Smith.
We elect a monarch for 5 years. That's what we do. The most powerful person in this country is the Prime Minister. No minister compares to him or her. No minister has the authority, the power. None.
I have one last question. Mariano Brown says we are facing catastrophic times.
But that's what I've been telling you. I've been saying that. I'm not necessarily repeating his words.
You agree though?
Yes, I do agree. We are
They're
in a mess.
Dark roads.
We are in a situation where already things were not going our way. And here it is. Rather than the price of oil going up to help us, the thing has come tumbling down.
Dark days
Where
ahead.
are we going to go? There is nothing else we have to sell, as I keep telling you, about oil. And I need to make this point that people, when you are producing, let's take some of the best things that you could think about, Carib. Imagine you're producing Carib, which sells abroad, You have to have foreign exchange to buy the inputs into the Carib, perhaps even the glass bottle, all right, or whatever it is required to make the glass bottle up in Lupino, or wherever that place is. If you have, who gives you that foreign exchange? BP gives you that foreign exchange. Oil, gas gives you that foreign exchange. When you get that, you make that Carib and you sell it to Philip Alexander for TT dollars, you must now take that same money, go back to the bank to get more US dollars to buy what is required to make that Carib again. If you have no foreign exchange in this country, nothing happens. If the price of oil fails, everything fails. They say oil produces about 25% of the GDP. It's a question of 100 minus 25 is 0. There is nothing that could take place without the contribution of oil and gas. You must bear that in mind. The worst example, the Carib is a bad example from the point of view that Carib sells abroad. What sells abroad from these malls that you look? You go down to where I live in, and you go into Price Mart. You see a television set and you buy it. You buy it with TT dollars, but it was something that
the
was
replacement
purchased.
value is
Yeah.
US.
Yeah, you have to find the US to replace it, and you are not generating 1 cent in foreign exchange, not a cent. But yet you go along Chaguanas, that main road there, you check, it's about 4 to 5 malls, I don't know when that, I know all the northern people don't cross the
Bossman, I am not talking about the proliferation of strip malls from Price Plaza heading north. I'm saying just now, you'll be able to walk from Chaguanas to Tong in mall car parks. We are building at a time when the rest of the world is experiencing retail apocalypse. We are building.
Anyway, so the long and the short of it is,
where's that money coming from?
But the money comes from you and me when we buy from the mall. But the essential point is they will have nothing to sell if they can't buy something from abroad. And to buy something from abroad, they don't accept TT dollars. They want hard currency. US dollars, Canadian dollars, pound sterling, euros, whatever it is. That could only be obtained by someone generating the foreign exchange. You understand? Or somebody giving you. For instance, when you get into a mess, the IMF may come and give you some foreign exchange to work with. They call it special drawing rights. That happened to us in the
86.
in the 80s. So we have a real problem on our hands, that the source of foreign exchange, the lifeblood of this economy, is under serious threat. We can't go to the blood bank because the blood bank is running low. And we have a serious problem now. So catastrophic is probably an understatement. We are likely, we were lucky in over the years. The governments did not make the mistake of the 1980s. We accumulated some foreign exchange. We created the heritage and civilization. So there is still some money. But since 2008, that stock has been gradually falling. High still, We must have about 6 months import cover now, but falling. Now we are taken out of this and we are not putting anything back into it, or hardly anything. We are withdrawing faster than we are filling up.
Left pocket and right pocket.
Yes. So what is going to happen is sooner or later
we're going to deplete that.
It's going to disappear. But before that reaches, a lot of bad things are going to happen. The rate of exchange is going to rise because they're going to attempt to counteract it. The rate of exchange, which is now fraudulently, and we are probably happy for it, at $7. The rate of exchange should be all around, my view, about $12. And it should probably, you may not want this to go on the air before people start to panic.
No, but that is the market, the corrected market sells itself at $10.
Yeah. Well, and that is for other reasons, but it should be higher because it should. And what is going to happen is all of us on fixed income pensions are going to be very badly. That $3,000 a month you now get from that I get.
Your cost of living is going to go through the roof.
Oh no, I can now buy 10 loaves of bread, let's say. With that, I can only buy 2 loaves of bread very soon.
If they devalue.
Yes, and that is not going to go up because the money is not going to be there. So yes, we and other countries.
So we're entering a negative cycle.
Very, very bad. It's very, very. It's nothing good. And I mean, I don't hope.
So without a vision for the country to diversify the economy, somebody to say we're going to champion and.
Let me stick up in here. Diversification is a long-term exercise. You may be lucky to go into something today that begins to sell. It could very well be that you find that people suddenly demanding at least doubles.
No, but you alluded to the service industry, and we really do have to stick up in because I've kept you here so long, and the show is going on. But we're going to have to bring you back to talk just diversification, and maybe we will bring other members.
You must now leave me to talk to him.
You go.
No, not now. Because we have to spend the time thinking about how do we facilitate diversification. My own feeling is that we cannot pretend that we are able. If I knew what product to sell, I wouldn't even be here talking to you. I'd be too busy making the money. We who think have to find ways that encourage the entrepreneurs to come out of their holes, to finance them. And so these people who have crazy ideas that we need to finance. Because sometimes they come up, you could imagine somebody coming to you with the Post-it, you know what Post-it is, that was so popular. Imagine a Trinidadian had created that, or Velcro. These things are not rocket science, But look how these things have sold on the international market.
There's something called the Sky Dancer that they have outside all of the used car places in the States. It's fly up in the air and come back down. Peter Mitchell created that.
Yeah.
I understand he never benefited from it.
I am quite sure he didn't, because he probably didn't patent it or anything.
And it's globally now. It's global.
And that is what I'm trying to say, that you have creative people. You take, the steel band that I am thinking in particular about what we call the high pans. I don't know how the tenor pan, the double tenor, the double second. Because I really think the days of the bass and all of them. Oh yes! And there is a global market for steel drums in orchestras and so on. There is that now. And people are hiring. When you talk about a panist in the United States, you know who they're thinking about? It's not me. They're thinking about Andy Narrell, a bona fide white American playing the tenor pan. And yet we have people who have that skill, probably even better. You have people like Liam. Well, Liam Teague is different as well. You have people like Greenwich. You have people like Boogsy. And many are skilled panists in this country that can be making a mint outside. But somehow it does not take off. Now, I am not saying that idea is a good one. It could very well be a bad one. But somebody has to try it. And if and when the thing takes off, a lot of these things that require investing in, it requires money. If I come up with a crazy idea, I will almost certainly need something from the United States of
But that's
America.
what we spoke about. We spoke about that with how India moved from slums to what it is
Yeah.
now. State as facilitator. If you're going into agro-processing, when you talk to the farmers, what they tell you, they need protections.
In the case of India is such a big country. India produce strawberries and they produce sugarcane. We don't have that capability. We cannot turn to any part of the country and find what we need. Whatever we need is almost certainly going to come from abroad. You take patties in Jamaica. I am quite certain that nothing in the patty comes from Jamaica. And yet they are selling that abroad. You see? No. It doesn't matter that it costs $10 to make. If you could sell it for 11, you're doing well. You understand what I'm saying?
But there are companies in Trinidad that import lumber, make doors, and export them. So I know that. And I know that they are...
But that's what we do with everything. And the Carib is an example.
Okay, but these people export more than they import, and the finished product that they export earns more foreign exchange than they use. So we should be encouraging the development of...
If that is true, that is correct.
That is absolutely true. And there are other companies like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Silicon Valley in the United States of America is a facilitation where you have an idea and you go and you could access credit and finance to follow through with the idea. We have nothing like that. We have no crucibles for development at the ground level in this country. We are fast food economy. Yesterday we were speaking.
You know who opens these malls? Ministers of government comes and opens these malls, you know.
Professor, could we benefit from having you here again for a follow-up on this? Because I think you have a lot more to add.
Why you don't come down Shagona?
I think well, as we did on location at Basdeo Pandey, I will talk to Satish Ramsaran, who's the head of PEP Media, to see if he'll facilitate part 2 to this by you.
Yeah, all right.
Thanks a lot. It was nice having you.
pleasure.
We're not supposed to be shaking hands.
No.
They say, but I think we have hand sanitizer. Basdeo Pandey was telling me supposed to bounce feet now. Anyway, we touched on so many things in this show, and it's very important to get everybody thinking critically. You need to be understanding what's going on. You have to know where we come from, where we could have been, where we should have been, where we could be if we put certain things in place. People like Patrick Watson is a resource. He's a wealth of knowledge. I believe that we need to get back to a place where the public, Trinidad and Tobago, the average person, starts to take interest in the country. We need to take interest in where we are. Economists are ringing alarm bells. The country is in a frightful place and heading to darker waters. We need to come together as a people and vote ourselves a better tomorrow. This has been Plain Talk. I am Philip Edward Alexander. Until next time, stay safe, Trinidad and Tobago.